to the UIAAA Connection podcast. GoFan and VNN are proud to be the exclusive sponsor of the UIAAA Connection. Now a combined company, GoFan and VNN provide a seamless integration for digital ticketing and athletic websites. Direct your fans to one place for all your athletic events, communications, and tickets to home and away games. Thank you to GoFan and VNN for their exclusive sponsorship of the UIAAA Connection.
Welcome back to another edition of the UIAAA Connection. I'm your host, Mark Hutch Hunter. Today we have as our special guest, Joni Pabst, certified Master Athletic Administrator, the current Executive Director of the Arizona Interscholastic Athletic Administrators Association. Her last job as an AD was at Saguaro High School, and I need to mention former board member and former president of the NIAAA. Welcome to the podcast, Joni.
Thank you so much, Mark. It's great to be here.
Let's have you begin by sharing with our audience here in the United States and across the world where you grew up, where you went to college, your first job, etc.
Well, I grew up in an Air Force family, so I was born in Houston, Texas, and we lived all over Hawaii, Colorado Springs, Georgia, Oklahoma, and my father finally retired in Arkansas, where he and my mother originally came from. And I went to junior high, high school, and college in Jacksonville, Arkansas. And then I went to college in Conway, Arkansas at the University of Central Arkansas. Got my bachelor's degree there. And then it wasn't until after I got married and moved to Tucson that I ended up getting my two master's degrees from the University of Arizona. So my growing up years was a lot of fun. Met a lot of people. At the time, I used to think it wasn't fair to leave friends, at the end of a school year. But then looking back as an adult, I had an amazing opportunity to meet people from all across the country, much like what we do through our association with the NIAAA. But so that was my growing up there. I did get involved in sports. I had two brothers. I was the oldest of four children. And at my junior high and high school, even though Title IX went into effect, it hadn't gone into effect at my school. So the only thing they offered girls was gymnastics. So I was a gymnast through junior high, high school, and I competed in college. And also in college, I was on the first women's track team that they had at the University of Central Arkansas. So I didn't have the opportunities to do a lot of things, basketball, volleyball, those types of things that girls had. So I'm very appreciative of the fact that Title IX came in and made changes for women's athletics. I just wish when I was in high school, I could have had a little bit more. But, I think that catapulted me to want to get into coaching and then move down up the ranks with administration.
Perfect. Let me ask you a totally off the wall question, nothing to do on the subject. U of A or Arkansas? Which one do you pick?
Oh, Mark, I pick U of A, which is both of them. I was born a hog, but I also bleed red, blue. So that's a tough one for me when they play each other. I can't lose. So I can't pick between the two. I love them both.
I want to know if you have that picture that I saw on Facebook here a while back of you and Gronk. Is that framed in your office?
Not framed yet, but I do have my Gronk jersey, and on my Facebook account, my profile picture is me and the Gronkster. So that was was that ever amazing to finally get to meet him. He's a neat guy.
Perfect. That's let's get back to some more serious stuff. Let's talk about, or have you talk about, some of the mentors, leaders, coaches you had in your life that made a difference to you, just beginning in your education, maybe some in the NIAAA and up to where you are today.
The first person that was my first mentor was my dad, from the standpoint of just teaching me hard work, having a good work ethic and things like that. But when I started out my career in Arkansas, again, women were not always in leadership roles. And so it wasn't until I moved to Arizona and got involved with the AIAAA that Sister Lynn Windsor, another former NIAAA president, and Ted Miller, another former NIAAA president, encouraged me to get involved in the AIAAA, and I did. They just they told me to get on to try to get on committees, to volunteer to do things, and so the two of them were very instrumental in me getting involved in what I needed to do to become a better athletic administrator. So I kind of owe a lot to them. The late Rick Johnson, and from the AIAAA, also was always someone that supported me and helped me out along the way as well. So I would say those three people, as far as the AIAAA, really took me under their wing. And Sister Lynn, well, you know Sister. I mean, everybody knows Sister. That is one woman that I owe an awful lot to.
Let me ask you somewhat of a serious question here, Joni. What's your biggest failure or disappointment in life, and what did you learn from it?
I would say that my biggest disappointment actually ended up, in a strange way, turning around and months later becoming something that ended up being a great thing for me. But I had been in my district, the Tucson Unified School District, for many, many years, and I had always wanted to become the district athletic director when that individual stepped down. And when that time came, I applied for the job, and everybody was just, Joni, you're the best one for it. You're going to get this job. And I didn't. And I was crushed. I was disappointed beyond words. I felt betrayed. I felt that it just wasn't fair. And then the position turned into, for the individual that did get the job, which was someone I worked with. He was an athletic director at another high school in my school district. Wonderful gentleman. But they changed the job where it had less and less to do with athletics and more to do with things that had nothing to do with athletics. And so I saw the frustration he went through, and I thought, wow, as disappointed as I was and literally crushed to my core that I didn't get that, looking back after a few months, I realized that was probably the best thing that could have happened, because it catapulted me into working harder as a leader in the AIAAA and putting more of my energies there. And so, yeah, it was a big disappointment, but it wasn't meant to be. And so it turned out being good for me, because I became more involved as the executive director. And so, yeah, it's kind of funny how things turn out that way. Things are meant to happen the way they're supposed to.
Exactly. How many years were you in the building as an AD?
I was in the building as an AD for 18 years. And I really enjoyed it. It was, as you know, working with the students and the coaches. It was rewarding. It was frustrating. It was long hours, all of that combined together, but best profession you could ever be in. Just really enjoyed it.
And so you've been out of the building for at least 10 years, or is it longer?
10 years. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So 28 years ago, you began as a new AD, obviously not a new educator, but a new AD. So my question to you is, how has the job of athletic administrator changed since you first took the job 28 years ago?
Oh my, back in the day when I started, we were busy and things were hectic, but they were simpler. We didn't have to deal with the issues of transgender athletes, of NIL. The transfers to other schools were not as rampant. You know, the rules were stern, and this is how you did things. And when you were in this junior high, you knew you'd go to this high school. And so it was simpler. Not to say that we weren't always busy and we didn't have hard decisions to make and frustrating times, but I think that our society has changed so much and youth have changed so much that we probably had it a lot easier back then than our counterparts have today. It's why you see so many that sometimes after their first year or two getting back out again, because it's just the job has changed and the stress level and the requirements have increased in the rules enormously. So I think that we had it a lot easier back in the day, and my heart goes out to our athletic directors nowadays. They have their hands full with so many things.
Well said. Let's talk for a minute about your journey with the AIAAA. You talked about Sister Lynn and Ted getting you involved early. And if I'm not mistaken, you're the first and only executive director of the AIAAA.
Yes,
So
yes.
Talk about your journey, how you got involved with that. Talk about, my goodness, you and I have been going to Section 7 meetings together for just under 30 years, probably. And talk about Section 7 and then talk how you got involved with the NIAAA.
Well, Sister, like I said, Sister Lynn and Ted got me involved early on, and I started attending meetings on the planning committee. And then after my first year with the AIAAA serving on the planning committee, the treasurer stepped down. And so Ted Miller's like, I nominate Joni to be our treasurer, so I got into that position, and then found out through that position that every time that we used to rotate our state conference. One September it would be in the Tucson area, then it'd be in the Phoenix area the next year, then it'd be up in Prescott towards the northern part of the state. And so I found that I ended up having to do a lot of the communication and planning with the resort that we would be at the time. And so I ended up kind of turning into the conference coordinator, conference planner. And then they started handing me more and more to do. And for many years, I was actually the executive director without being the executive director. But we finally got to a point to where I just kind of stepped up, and I noticed in our numbers over the years that I was involved that our best attendance was when we were in Prescott, Arizona, because you were too far away from school to go back to school if an issue came up. You were stuck in a good way. And so our ADs were attending sessions, the awards luncheons. They were more engaged. And so I started negotiating 3-year contracts with the Prescott Resort. And we've been with them over 25 years. And so our numbers have just really increased since then. In those early years, Sister Lynn had encouraged me to put my name up for a committee. So I put my name up for the awards committee and served on that. You came on board.
I remember well.
Yeah. We worked together, being both of us in charge of the awards committee. Ted got me involved or Dr. Harold Slimmer, the former AIAAA State Association Executive Director, got me involved. I served a 5-year term on the National Federation Citizenship Committee. So I started getting more and more involved there, taking classes. and getting my getting my CAA. And then Sister Lynn and Ted and them said, you've been attending national conferences. We've got a board position coming up. Let's put your name up for it, and I'm like, oh, I don't know if I'm ready for that. But I ended up throwing my name in the ring for the at-large position. I was very fortunate to get that position and be able to serve on the NIAAA board. And then I put my name up for president and was very fortunate to be selected for that. And that was probably serving on the board and being the national president was the highlight of my career, to be able to travel across the country and see all the amazing state associations that we have and the good work that they're doing. And then, of course, along with all of that was getting involved with you all with the NEDC as the executive directors. And that again started me on this path of, wow, I've kind of been learning how to be an executive director on my own because there wasn't a handbook before me to tell me how to do it. And then I met all of you in the NEDC. And again, we all help lift each other up and help each other grow as executive directors. And so all of that whole entire journey of the different organizations all under this common goal of making educational athletics, the best it can be for our student athletes was just an amazing opportunity. And I'm so pleased that I had that and met the people that I've had. As you know, I'm currently serving as the secretary for the NEDC.
Right.
And like you, I'm stepping down as executive director at the end of this year, which is bittersweet. September will be my last state conference, and it's been an amazing ride, but it's time for the younger generation to step up but still be hard because of all the connections that you make and the friends that you make, because then we become a different family through our state organizations and the national organization. So,
right. So many follow-up questions. I hope I remember them all. The first one I want to ask you is, now we talk about, well, at least in my mind, and I think they are across the country, the legends in Arizona would be you and Ted and Sister Lynn, all presidents. Others that from there, Rick Johnson, as you said, was passed on. Cindy Riley, who also served on the board. Sister Nancy,
yes.
who also served on the board. So talk about, I guess, maybe just a couple of stories of what it's like serving with those, because those are all famous people, all people that have, at a minimum, served on the board. And like I say, 3 of you gone on to be president. So that's incredible. So share some thoughts along that line.
Well, you can't go by without a Sister Lynn story. And Sister Lynn would always encourage me to go to the conference a couple of days early when Sister Nancy was still living. And when it was in Orlando, of course, Sister Lynn knows someone everywhere you go. And she had gotten us tickets to go to Epcot and Disney World. And so the day that we went to Epcot, we are going around and we're visiting the different areas, the different countries. And I had mentioned that my mother-in-law was Norwegian. So we went to the Norway and we're putting on these hats with the Viking horns, and they had a hook to them, blonde braids for the woman Viking. So we all 3 put those on, and one of the girls in the shop took pictures of us, and Sister Lynn would, come up with these, what she thought were Norwegian names, Helga, Velga, and Delga, and it was always a fun time with Sister Lynn. She was always a character. And like I said, knows somebody everywhere you go. And so there were always fun times with her. Cindy Riley, being also an athletic director from Tucson, Cindy and I have been friends for 30 something years. And, so getting to work beside her, she was another amazing leader from the Tucson area, but we always had good times together, good laughs, always there to help each other out. And of course, Ted Miller was always the quiet and kept us in line, and so that we didn't just get too crazy with Sister Lynn. But I would have to say that leaving, some of my really favorite memories are those spent with Sister Lynn. Just quite a lady.
Absolutely. This next question, I say for those who don't know, what I'm fairly certain everyone knows, that Utah and Arizona are part of Section 7, which would include California, Nevada, and Hawaii. And so since you and I have probably attended at a minimum 6, possibly more section meetings in Hawaii, share some of those adventures if you feel like you want to, because there's some great Section 7 NIAAA lore at the section meetings in Hawaii.
We have had some amazing meetings, Section 7 meetings in Hawaii. We've always had, back from the Herbie Lloyd days, and of course Blaine Tyson, and and we've always, of course, when you're in Hawaii, the Section 7 meeting is always in conjunction with their state conference. So you're always at a beautiful resort. And of course, I 1 year on some free time decided to go out into the bay and got caught in a riptide, and of course had a snafu with my swimsuit. And luckily I came out of that all right. But we always had good times together with our Hawaii friends. It was always much aloha shared, and lots of good times, great food, and of course you couldn't beat the weather. And it's funny because when I was looking to the time I would step down, I was looking at the calendar going, okay, we've got Section 7 is in Hawaii for 2023, so I need to stay through 2023. Oops, and then we're going to have our executive directors meeting, so I think I'll make it through 2024. But we did have some good times together as a section. I think we are a great section. I think we have wonderful leaders. You and I have shared a lot of fun adventures together with the organization and with our section, and it's very times that will remain with me, and I will hold close to my heart forever.
Absolutely. Let me go back to, you talked earlier about serving on the awards committee. And obviously I'm a little bit proud of where the awards committee is now, so are you, but maybe talk for a minute at your stories, because I can remember this is probably 2001, so probably 23 years ago. You're on the committee, I'm on the committee. I think Sandy Mater out of Texas is on the committee. Bobby Rossi out of New Jersey, Hall of Famers on the committee. And I can just remember, it was back in the days that there was just a chair and a vice chair and a bunch of people that we got to know. But I can remember the 4 of us, I don't know if planning is the correct word, but saying, when one of us gets in charge, we should do this, or when one of us becomes vice chair, we should do this, or we should maybe get some flowers for the award winners at the president reception, and on, and how we rewrote that. So maybe if any come to your mind, share some stories or some memories from that time on the awards committee, because you people don't know this. You went straight from the awards committee onto the board, and then from there became the president. So I'll turn it back to you.
I think we did do some great things on the awards committee. That's not to say the people before us didn't work hard, because they did, but I think that you're right. We sat and brainstormed a lot about what we could do to make things better, and the whole idea of getting the boutonnieres and corsages so that they, at the president's reception, they stood out, and then the actual day they were getting their award. Those were great ideas that came out of your leadership and Rossi and I working with you, and just that extra. We got more involved with the board on making sure that people were there to help people up and down the stairs. I mean, they seem like
Right.
little things, but they were those touches that we brought forth in that time you and I served together that kind of upped the game of how awards went. And now they're just continuing to grow. And I know you're proud of that part that you played, and I'm proud of the part I played in that as well, that we were able to make that a special memory for those individuals. And I think too, once they in 2009, when the first Hall of Fame class came up, Sam Rasmussen was president. I was the past president, but even through the awards committee working a little bit on the Hall of Fame as well, and you and I both have been inducted into the NIAAA Hall of Fame,
Right.
and the things that they did that just continued to make that such special memories for those of us that were recipients of the awards or the Hall of Fame induction. So I think it's really fun that you and I shared having a part of how that grew and continued to blossom into a wonderful event for those worthy individuals.
Well said. I do remember, now that you bring back all these memories, the Kovaleski Award came out of the awards committee. I think Holly was, before she became the secretary, spent 1 or 2 years with us. And I know that idea took 2.5, 3 years to get off the ground, but look how that's taken off now and the people we have. So thanks so much for sharing that. And I want to get back now to, I know you talked about the NEDC, but talk about a little bit more about your involvement. People may not know this, that you hosted an NEDC conference in Prescott in the early teens. I know Utah's had a chance to host one back in 2006. I mean, that's a big deal. So maybe talk a little bit about that. Talk about hosting it in Prescott back when the great Jerry McGee was still alive. And of course, it was his vision. So I'll just turn it over to you.
I believe it was 2012 when Arizona had an opportunity to host the NEDC Summer Summit. And I wanted to do it at the same resort where we have our state conference because I knew those individuals at the hotel. We, worked together real well. But, every state that hosts tries to bring a flavor of their state and show off their state, which is what we should do. And so we tried to we had a Mexican buffet night for a meal, and we the night that we had the group that came with the banjos and sang, and I remember your wife and Pam Whitehead getting up and being asked to sing with them. And, we just had so much fun. And then while we were meeting, the ladies had an opportunity to get together, and some of them went to Sedona. Some of them went just to downtown historic Prescott and looked around. So it was a lot of work, as you know, when you host any event. And I'm glad that it has kind of spread around, and a lot of different states have taken the opportunity to do it. I'm glad Hawaii is doing it this year. I think it's nice for the executive directors to travel there for a change, because poor Hawaii is always having to travel, where we are. But it was an enjoyable experience. I'm glad that I've had that opportunity. But again, yes, serving with the NEDC has been amazing. And I've seen a lot of growth there since the time I came on board, which is not as long as you were on board, but pretty soon afterwards, I got involved. And it is a great organization, and I think that we work hard to ensure that our executive directors are getting the professional development they need to go back to their states and provide new things. And the one thing I've always said about our profession is, where our teams, when you're at a site as an athletic director, might compete against each other, we as athletic directors, as executive directors, we don't compete against each other. We're always there to share ideas and to help each other out. And hey, I've got this handbook if you want. One of the things that I think in leaving that I'm going to be the most proud of is that I'm developing a pop manual for the individual who's taking my place as executive director, because I didn't have that. I learned on the fly. I'm sure I made a lot of mistakes. I think I did some good things. And so, you know, I'm able to share that with the other executive directors, you know, hey, if you don't have one, maybe we can, here, I'll send you mine when I get it done. You know, we're good about that in this profession. We want each other to succeed, and because that improves educational athletics overall across the country and in other foreign countries as well. So I'm really proud to be a part of the NEDC. I will miss everyone after December, but I am proud of the friendships and the connections I've made there, because those two will be with me forever.
Very well said. Thanks so much for sharing. I'll give you one more chance now to share some stories. You and I both had the privilege of serving on the board. Actually, we were on the board together for 1 year, and maybe you could share a story of an executive director from a neighboring state who shall remain nameless, possibly Idaho. I can say that because she's been a guest on before, but and people need to understand, when you're on the board, it is business, and you get,
Yes,
like, you're there at 7 and you're working till 5, and you get a break for lunch or maybe a restroom break, but you are working hard. But there are some great things that happen sometimes when you're not there. For those who haven't been to Connor on the Prairie in Indianapolis, anyway, I'll just turn that over to you to maybe to share that, and then Tracy will forgive us when she hears this when we're in
she
Hawaii.
will, because she loves us both. But yes, you're right. It is very much, we're all volunteers, and it is a working board of directors. And you're right. We start at 7 and we get maybe a 30-minute lunch. Sometimes I know we've even had working lunches, and we're done at 5, and we work hard. But when the evening comes, the NIAAA staff has always wanted to treat us to a nice meal or take us somewhere special as a thank you. And so when we would go to those outdoor concerts, they were a lot of fun. Over my 4 years on the board, I've been there twice. And I do remember this one time that we were in a van, and I was with Tracy, and we were coming back from the concert. It was a great concert. We'd all had a great time, had great food, and the sunroof was opened in the van, and lo and behold, Tracy is out the sunroof and singing and swinging her arms, and we almost got a little bit of trouble for that, because I did kind of decide to join in and be her, singing partner with her. But and then I do have to say, and I think you'll remember this, when Sam Rasmussen was president, and we were going, I don't even remember where we were going, but we were on the Valparaiso bus, and we all started singing
Absolutely.
The Wheels on the Bus. And I think that Sam finally had to put the brakes on it and turn around and tell us all, I've had enough of that song. But we had some good times together when we were able to relax after a long day's work. And as you, and I'm sure many people that have served on the board, it is an experience that you will treasure the rest of your life. It is an honor to serve, and I'll never forget those moments. They were great moments, and I think they helped me become who I am today.
Thank you so much for sharing that. Let me ask you a question about the recent conference in Orlando. Probably not as big as Nashville, but probably the second biggest one we've had. I say recent, it's probably been half a year now, but any observations? Because once again, you and I've probably been to Orlando 3 or 4 times or more for national conferences, but this one seemed bigger and even a little bit better.
It did. I mean, there were first year I was ever in Orlando. It was great. It was wonderful. You don't really realize that you're kind of stuck on an island, so to speak, because there's not restaurants that you can just walk to. You have to get a car to get, it's such a huge property. And then, the second year there, it was like, oh, okay, well, back again. But you're right, this year, it was a lot better. It was enjoyable. The numbers were very high, and it was really a lot of fun to be there and to see them do things a little differently. The opportunities, the staff had changed some things around at the resort, and so it really was a good opportunity. And hosting a national conference is a lot of work, and the host committee really did a great job on this past year's conference, and always the NIAAA staff. We have such a small staff, but they work as if they were 100 people. They do such a great job.
Let's finish up with a couple of questions. The first one being this, Joni. You've got 2 pieces of advice for a brand new athletic administrator, and they need to follow Joni's advice in order to be a success. What would your 2 pieces of advice be?
Number 1, get involved in your state association and the NIAAA. Whether you're volunteering to help on committees, apply for committees, no matter what the facet is, get involved with your state association and the NIAAA. And the second piece of advice I would have is take the NIAAA leadership training courses and get your certifications. Those are so important. They are your avenue for professional development, because when you're in your own school districts, they may have professional development for the counselors and for the math teachers, but they don't have professional development for athletic administrators. So this is your opportunity. So those are my 2 pieces of advice, and not just to get involved, but to jump in with both feet.
Excellent advice. We'll finish with this question. Joni, what question should I have asked you that I failed to ask you?
You covered all the bases. I would say the one thing that I would like to just share is back in 2017, when Arizona had hosted the national conference for the first time ever, I was the host state committee chair. And I put together probably a notebook that's this big in case we ever hosted it again, which I wasn't sure that we would. And then lo and behold, they're going to be hosting in 2026. And when I announced to the board last year that we were going to be hosting, they said, "Oh, Joni, well, we know you're leaving, but will you come back and be the chair of the host committee?" Nope, absolutely not. That is a job somebody else needs to do.
Good for you.
It was rewarding, but it was a lot of work. But they laugh about that. "Well, you'll be around to help us, won't you?" I said, "I'll come and help out, but that torch needs to be passed on." But no, you hit all the perfect points.
All right. On that note, that wraps up this edition of the UIAAA Connection. Again, our special guest today has been Joni Pabst, CMAA, current executive director of the Arizona Interscholastic Athletic Administrators Association, former board member, former president of the NIAAA, and former building AD at Saguaro High School. Joni, thank you so much for being on the podcast.
Thank you so much, Mark. I enjoyed it.
For our listeners, we hope you tune in again next week for another edition of the UIAAA Connection.